And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Fit Dads Live. We've got a pretty interesting topic today. I figure we'll have people with quite a myriad of perspectives. So basically, we'll just get right down to the brass tacks. I know once we hit that live button, normally it takes a little bit
Yeah.
for the notifications to go out and people to actually click on them. So we'll have people coming in, but
Yep.
the video is always archived and you can always go back for the replay. But for those of you that are new here, this is my co-host Michael. His channel name is Truth Under Tension.
Yes, sir.
You can go to the link in the description below. His channel's linked there, as well as his Instagram if you want to give him a follow on Instagram as well. But I figured we would just get started as soon as this page loads up. Of course, it's loaded down with ads, just like all articles.
Of course.
But we're going to take a look at the actual article of the 16-year-old teenager who actually passed away.
Terrible.
But just out of curiosity, I noticed we've got two people here right now. If you are here from the Mud Club members chat, just say me or throw us a thumbs up or something in the chat, so we know if you're new here or if you're somebody who is one of our regulars.
Yeah.
And as always, full disclosure, we're not doctors, we're not experts. We just find topics that we find interesting. We try to expose the BS that a lot of influencers are spewing all over the place just to rake in views. And we try to just help people learn from what we learn. So take what you hear from us. You can take it. And looks like we got Titus here. He says regular. But basically, you can take what we say, do with it what you will, but we're not going to be held responsible for anything that, you do out of turn, so to speak. So
Yeah, outside doctor's orders or whatnot. The thing is
right.
We're here to definitely educate, but we're not here to prescribe anything.
Definitely. Always consult with your doctor before making any extreme changes to your diet, to your workout, fitness routine, whatever. Always consult with your doctor before entering into any of the activities that we, recommend. So
absolutely.
Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and it's still loading, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up and screen share this article.
Okay.
And then we can get right into it. So
Chris, man, while you're pulling that up, dude, I want to hear what we're talking about today, man. Really get into it. Let the audience know what they're in for, because we were talking before the stream, just so you know, guys, and I'm excited for this discussion today. I think it's going to be very educational. There's going to be a whole lot of information and a whole lot of opinions. I think Chris and I both agree whenever I said before the stream that I'm not trying to convince anybody over to my side or to my opinion. All we're trying to do is just give our points of view. You take this information and do with it what you will. But I think this is going to be a very interesting topic, Chris. So fill us in, man. What exactly are we talking about today? Because I was excited about this topic when you brought it up to me last week.
So it was actually kind of a double whammy for me. So I'd come across this Michelle McDaniel. For those of you who don't know who that is, her channel name is My Thoughts Will Probably Offend You. She's a fantastic YouTube content creator. I recommend her to everybody. She actually did a video covering this a couple of weeks ago. And as she was coming or discussing this, and the Daily Mail was the primary article that I found. There are several other articles covering it, but this one just seems to be the most, down to it, basically down to the brass tacks or however you want to put it. But
most comprehensive.
Right. And she and so my fiance, she's currently in college to be a pharmacy tech, I believe. And she's in A&P 2, so anatomy and physiology the second course, and she came across an excerpt in her book talking about the differences in hypercellular and hypertrophic obesity, and how infants and young children are able to actually produce more fat cells, whereas adults are only able to increase the size of the fat cells that they already have.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to cover, and feel free to share your opinions in the chat. Keep it respectful, or we will throw you out. We're not going to have any disrespectful and childish, nonsense going on in our streams. But we're going to cover the article. We're going to break down, the actual medical cause of death and what the parents are actually being charged for. And then after that, we're going to discuss kind of the differences, because I went through her A&P book and kind of did a lot of research into how this, what the exact differences are. And I've also got another little 3-minute snippet video that I was going to share with you guys. It's also linked down at the bottom of the description if you want to check it out and check that doctor out yourself. But anyway, we'll go ahead and read the article. So the headline is that the headline reads, if I could get this thing to stay still, man, these ads are ridiculous. So parents appear in court charged with killing their overweight 16-year-old daughter by allowing her to become morbidly obese after she was found dead in her bed. Now, I'm sure that she wasn't morbidly obese. I mean, I'm sure they found her morbidly obese prior to her being found in her bed, but that's just the way it's worded in the actual headline.
Sure.
So going down, it shows pictures of her. She looks like a sweet girl. So it said, man, teenager Kaylea, I'm not sure how they would pronounce it in Wales. I'm going to go with Kaylea Titford died from health problems linked to her weight. It says linked to her weight, and was found dead in bed by her mother at the family home in Newtown, Wales, in October of 2020. So this happened almost 2 years ago. Father Alun Titford, 44, and mother Sarah Lloyd Jones, 39, have been charged with gross negligence, manslaughter, and causing or allowing the death of a child or vulnerable person. Geez, I wish I could talk today. Child or vulnerable person. Jesus Christ, what is wrong? It is alleged that the pair of Colwyn Newtown between March 24th. Oh, it is alleged that the pair of Colwyn Newtown between March 24th and October 11th, 2020, failed to ensure Miss Titford's dietary needs were met, leading to morbid obesity. So that seems like the obesity spiked rather quickly. So it says the charge states, nor did they ensure she got enough exercise, was in a hygienic condition, had a safe and hygienic environment, her physical health was maintained, or reasonable medical help was sought. So the parents appeared before Welshpool Magistrates Court today. I'm assuming this was on April 14th of 2022, which is when this article was released, to face charges. They stood side by side in the dock wearing face masks. It says neither entered pleas, but spoke to confirm their names, ages, and address. Prosecutor Helen Tinch asked both defendants to remain on conditional bail and not to have contact with anyone under the age of 18. So I guess they're considering them a risk to minors. I don't know if I'd go that far, but we're talking about Wales. We're not talking about America, nor Canada, nor, I don't know how things are done in Wales.
We're not here to discuss justice either.
Right, exactly. They will next appear before Mold Crown Court on April 14th, 2022. So that is actually like next week. So, and this this article, it said, okay, so it was March 22nd of 2022. So last month is when they appeared in court, and they will appear again on April 14th. It shows some more pictures of her. And then it goes on that, man, these ads are driving me nuts. Kaylee was pronounced dead by paramedics at 8:12 a.m. on October 10th, 2020 at her home in Newtown, Poise. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Wales. I don't know. A medical cause of death was given as inflammation and infection in extensive areas of ulceration arising from obesity. That means it is directly linked to obesity and its complications in a girl with spina bifida and hydrocephalus. So it is indicating here that she did have pre-existing conditions, spina bifida and hydrocephalus. I'm sure we've all heard of those. And that the complications, kind of went hand in hand and contributed in unison to her fatality. Coroner Graham Hughes adjourned the inquest in Pontypridd, South Wales, until the conclusion of the criminal investigation. He said, while medical cause of death was proposed by Dr. James, may itself be natural, the circumstances precipitating Kaylee's death, and they spelled Kaylee differently here. If you'll notice, it says it has a GH at the end of it, whereas previously, so they need Daily Wire, get on your proofreading skills, dude. Even I can do better than that. Death are under investigation by DFED Poise Police, or DFED. As such, those investigations give me reason to suspect that Kaylee's death may be unnatural, in that a natural cause of death may be considered unnatural where there is some culpable human involvement or contribution to that death. And that was what the investigator was saying. And that is basically the end of the article here.
So we can go one of two directions in this conversation, I think. Okay. We can either go the direction of discussing the dangers of obesity and the science behind it, because right now there's not a lot of science floating around on this topic. It's more about your feelings. And so, which is disgusting, if you want my straightforward opinion. It's nothing to do with feelings. It's all about science. So we can go that direction, or we can go the direction of, we could talk about the parents and their culpability in this. Should they be charged? Why do you think, or why not? So I'm just curious what direction we want to go with this, Chris, because we could take it one of two ways, and either way, I'm ready to go.
Well, the way I see it is, and I actually have straight from the horse's mouth, that is straight from this massive A&P book here.
Yeah.
I took a few pictures of some things that I thought would be relevant to this particular case. So, just give me a few seconds to pull them up, and we can, let's see, we can go on. But basically, it's calories in, calories out. So she had pre-existing conditions. The parents were aware of these conditions. I mean, nowhere does it state that they were unaware. It's actually making it somewhat very clear that they were aware of her pre-existing conditions and failed to adhere to the conditions that, they're saying that her basic needs basically were not met, and that they were not monitoring her energy intake. They were not making sure she had a sanitary environment. They allowed her to basically eat herself into an early grave. They're saying that had these parents been more responsible with keeping their child on a healthy diet, making sure she got outside and did some exercise, whether it's playing or whatever, kids love to get out and run and play. I mean, all kids do. I mean, as long as you don't set them down in front of a computer or a tablet or a TV 8 hours a day from the time they're a toddler, they're going to want to go outside and play. Trust me, I have a kid and I know. So if they're getting outside and running and playing, that's exercise. They're getting their heart rate up. They're burning calories. So basically, and I've got several different pictures here, so I'm going to have to navigate through them. But they are straight out of the book. And
so on this, Chris, I mean, are we going down the justice path here? Or are we going to be talking about the science of obesity and what the dangers are behind it? Because, the thing is that those are two totally separate, conversations, and I don't want to convolute those things and mix them up. I think if we want to get down into the science of it, I think it's highly interesting. I think the information you were sending me all week as we were discussing this topic was super interesting to me. And so I think folks would like to hear it. But at the same time, I think it's a very compelling discussion to kind of go over, do the parents deserve to be brought, in front of a court on this and actually, be possibly convicted? And what are the dangers there of that being set as a standard, right? So which way are we headed? Are we going to talk about justice or are we going to talk about science?
First science, then justice.
Let's do it.
I feel like that would be the best way to do it. And let's see. I think this was the first one. All right. Well, let me get this pulled up so that you guys can see it. And there, and share screen, and share a window. Okay, here we go. And there it is. So this was the excerpt that my fiance was actually studying this chapter as I was watching. She was studying chapter 4, histology. And when I watched the video from Michelle McDaniel covering the case of Kaylea in Wales, she noticed this and she pointed it out to me, and I found it abundantly interesting. There are 2 forms of obesity. Are you guys able to see that, or is it still showing you all my different pictures over there? Because I've got the stream up on my TV, and it's still, but it lags. So
we can see it.
So you can see the adipose tissue and obesity. Okay, so
well, I'm seeing pictures. I'm seeing thumbnails and stuff.
So it's not sharing the right. Why is it doing this? So I'm going to share screen, share window. Oh my gosh, it's really going to not let me do that. So I have other ways of doing these things. We have ways of making you talk.
Show us, man. Get them skills out.
I got you. Give me just a second. I'm going to have to pull them up as logos. Oh, no. I'm going to have to pull them up as banners or overlays, as they call them.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so it'll just take a second. Background. There it is. Add overlay. Oh my gosh, it's not going to let me because I'm using the free version of StreamYard. Are you serious right now? Let me see what I can do. Sorry for the delay, guys. I appreciate everyone for being here. I see we're drawing in quite a crowd. Like I mentioned before, if you're here from the Mud Club chat, throw a me or something like that in the chat so that we can see if we got. I noticed that 2 people after I put up my post actually subscribed to the channel, and I very much appreciate that. I appreciate everybody that subscribes to my channel, and I encourage you to subscribe to Michael's channel as well. As we also we alternate which channel the show is hosted on every other week. So every other week is on Michael's channel, and then 2 weeks later it's on my channel, and we alternate back and forth. So yeah, StreamYard is really trying to act like there's not a tab here, and it's starting to get me a little bit irritated. But let me close some of these windows down and see if that helps anything. Because it's offering me to show, share a window, but it's only, I've got too many open, I guess. I've got Brittany's stuff up, and so I'm gonna try this again, and let's see what it shows. It's still only showing the in-shot window.
No worries. We can just keep the show moving, man. I say just discuss what you have on those images so everybody can understand, get an understanding of what we're about to dive into.
I just wanted to show it to everybody. So basically, as she was studying this chapter, it showed it has little excerpts in the book, and this one says there are 2 forms of obesity. The first and most common is hypertrophic obesity, and that is what you most likely hear about on every fitness channel. That's all. They don't even go into the 2 different types. They'll go into the different types, and there's obesity and morbid obesity, but I myself have never heard them even mention hypertrophic obesity or hypercellular. So hypertrophic, in which the lipid inclusions in the adipocytes are fat cells, accumulate excess fatty acids and increase in size. So basically, the fat cells you already have increase in size. Adipocytes may grow to as much as 4 times their normal size in cases of severe obesity. However, the number of adipocytes remains the same. And the other form is hypercellular obesity, in which the actual number of adipocytes increases. Hypercellular obesity, which is generally severe, correlates with the development of obesity in infancy or early childhood. So we're not talking about teenagers. We're talking about toddlers, infants. Yes, probably by the age of 10, you're not going to see many cases of hypercellular obesity. At that point, it goes more into the hypertrophic side. So it says infancy or early childhood. This is because the adipocytes of infants and young children can increase in number, whereas those of adults lack the ability to divide and form into new cells. Both forms of obesity increase the risk of certain health problems. However, they seem to be associated with the development of different disorders. Furthermore, the development of disorders associated with obesity is complex and depends on the distribution of adipose tissue and on genetic factors. And then it goes on to say, for a deeper discussion of this topic, go to the metabolism chapter. And that's the chapter I studied for a very long time. And I wanted to find out at what point, what is the point that dictates when you can no longer, your fat cells can no longer divide. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with when you stop growing taller, for instance. Doesn't matter if is it puberty related. I was trying to find that out,
right?
But to no avail. Was able to find that out. So, give me just a second here.
I think regardless, Chris, whatever that that piece of data is, to me, for just myself, it doesn't matter. I think what this is actually telling me and was telling us this week as we were reading over this information is that the dangers of obesity are exponential when you talk about obesity in children. Because what we're seeing here is that, as the child is growing, prepubescent is kind of what I took from it. They can actually multiply their fat cells. So they're building a very, very, very difficult foundation to navigate in their adulthood, which
Exactly.
so they can now be way or far more susceptible to obesity and morbid obesity, and thereby far more susceptible to many life-threatening diseases. This is exceptional. And I don't know if anybody else on this stream, whether you're watching it live or on playback, has heard about this stuff. I can tell you, I personally hadn't. So when I was reading it, I was pretty shocked to hear that. And also at the same time, I'm a parent. And if there's any parents watching this on playback or here live, you start to really, you take a hard look at your diet, right? At the diet that you're feeding your children. Because it's all fun and games when we're all out here as adults, trying to, lose fat or get jacked in the gym. And, we can all sit here and talk. We're all adults, we make our own decisions, but our children don't make those, their dietary decisions. We make them for them. So we are truly setting them up for failure, in my opinion, if we decide to throw diet out the window, throw any healthy diet out the window, and feed our children junk, and then allow them to sit in front of a screen, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. It's absurd. It's disgusting. And I think that more people need to understand that this happens from such a young age, and they're set up for failure, guys. I mean, that sucks, because then these people become adults. And they're the ones that are struggling in the gym. They're the ones that are struggling losing weight or trying to maintain a healthy weight. And I hate to say that, that they're not responsible, because I believe everybody is personally responsible and can do something for themselves. But I'm saying a portion of their troubles, they're not responsible for. We are, as the parents who fell short and got lazy, got so lazy. Anyway, Chris, before I get too heated, I'm gonna let you keep going. It's just ridiculous to me.
No, I agree, man. It is totally and especially from the very start, it points out that the infancy and young children, that means as you progress, as they get older, they're less and less likely to have those fat cells dividing and producing more fat cells. So it really is from the start, not even from birth, from the mother's diet while the child is in the womb. So it is vital to have your kid, and my kid, whether he's in the house or outside, he's running nonstop. He's hardly ever sitting down. He's just running back and forth all over the place. So and I love that. And he loves to play with he loves to play ball, like throw the ball back and forth. He's only going to be 3 in May, so he's not really good at catching it yet, but he loves to like if I toss the ball, he wants to run and go get it. It's kind of like playing fetch, but I'm trying to teach him to throw it back, and we're working on that. But the point is, they need to be active, and not only do they need to be active, they need to be fed healthy foods. Yes, you can let them have treats, but treats don't need to be their only diet.
100%.
And it's very interesting as genetics ultimately, here this whole time, even myself, I thought, your fat distribution is genetic. But here I come to find out, I mean, this A&P book, it was based in 2020, back before science was bastardized by the wokes. So it's actually modern research of actual, and I've got, I think, 5 or 6 more excerpts out of it. But before I get into that, I just wanted to share this video with you guys. It's like 3 minutes long.
Okay.
The video is also linked down in the description, and it just describes what I tried poorly to describe what I read, and but you'll have to bear with his accent. I believe he's Indian. He's a doctor, Dr. Najib, and it's his channel name is Dr. Najib Lectures. So I'm gonna hit unmute and
right now, very briefly, I will talk about 2 types of obesities. Obesities only just few words. Right? We'll discuss that in detail in biochemistry. Right now, obesity, of course, when you have a lot of extra fat in your body, there's two types of obesity. Number one is hypertrophic, other is called hypercellular. Hypercellular. Listen, fat cells which are present at neonatal life, right? In early neonatal life, fat cells or adipocytes multiply or proliferate. As your age increases, you lose the capacity to multiply. Now, if a very small infant is overfed, his fat cells will become small or large? Large. Plus they will multiply. So if a very small child, infant is overfed, his number of fat cells will increase as well as size of fat cells will increase and he will become obese. Is that right? But if there is an adult person, he overeats. Fat cells cannot increase the number because fat cells lose the capability to multiply with the adult age. But fat cells still have capacity to enlarge. Is that right? So what really happens in adult onset obesity? What really happens? The number of fat cells in your body are fixed, but you can really make them overloaded with triglyceride, and you become yourself fat.
So, in the hopes of not getting a copyright strike, it's best to chop that up into intervals. But he pointed out that, you know, as before, it mentioned that your adipocytes are able to multiply or increase in size up to 4 times their original size. So I'm still wondering, and we may have to go into this on another show, is once all of your fat cells that you have all increased to 4 times their size and you're still in a calorie surplus, where's that extra energy going? Do you secrete it out as waste? You know? Like, I haven't found the answer to that question, but I just thought that was an interesting dynamic to this scenario here. But I'll let him go on and finish this.
Type of situation when a small cell increases size is called hypertrophy. What is that called? Hypertrophy. So adult onset obesity is hypertrophic. Hypertrophic means small fat cell will convert into a large fat cell. But in early onset, child onset obesity, right, is basically there's a small fat cell. If you're overfeeding, not only this cell will first multiply into many cells, and eventually they will become very, very large. This is called hypercellular. The number of cells is increasing. Hypercellular obesity. This is childhood obesity, right? If mothers overfeed their children at very early stage, the number of fat cells will increase. And when you are having too much excessive number of fat cells, all your life you have trouble in controlling your weight. Fat cells number is often inherited. When we say some people have inherited tendency to be overweight, probably the genes which determine the number of fat cells are determining more fat cells number in your body. And if you inherit a larger number of fat cells, right, at the top you eat more, it's very difficult to control your weight. Is that right? So your weight depends on so many factors. We'll discuss in detail in biochemistry. Here I'm just saying that obesity can be due to simply increase in the size of the fat cells. That is adult onset obesity. That is also called hypertrophic obesity. Or it may be early age onset obesity, and in which age fat cells can even multiply when they are overloaded with the fat, and we call it hyperplastic or hypercellular obesity. Hyperplasia means increase in number. So it can be called hypercellular obesity, or it can be called hyperplastic obesity.
I was wondering about that because it mentioned hyperplastic at the end of the at the end of the title to his video, and I didn't, I didn't notice that in the A&P book. So I'm assuming that is the combination of hypertrophic and hypercellular. That's the way I understood it, the way he explained it. But regardless, I do have other, I got some more images here. I was gonna, dude, I opened it 4 times and it's still not letting me share this as a window. It is a window, dude. Like, let me share the window. But anyway, ultimately it comes down to, maybe if I use a different, photo or file, maybe if I open it in a different program, it'll let me share it. So I've got, let's see. Damn it, did it wrong again. Oh, I'm wondering if I have a different.
While you're looking that up, I'm curious, guys, in the chat, if you're here live, I want to know if you guys have heard, about these 2 types of fat accumulation, if you were aware of it. I certainly wasn't, so it was news to me. So all this information, so that's also saying all this information is actually new to me as much as it is news. So I'm not gonna say today that everything I'm saying is absolutely accurate or correct. I've only had like a week to research it, but I'm just curious, you guys in the chat, have you heard of this before? And I'd like to hear kind of what your feedback is on it and on the 2 different types of fat accumulation.
Oh, dude, it's gonna let me share it now. Finally.
Let's go.
So here we go. We got this is out of the A&P book. So this is just one little excerpt I found in chapter 23 covering obesity. And it says, obesity has many potential causes, but the number 1 cause is positive energy balance. That is a caloric intake that exceeds the number of calories that are burned. In the United States, this is partly due to the widespread availability of food, particularly high calorie, high fat, processed foods with few nutrients, and it says, for example, basically fast food. And this is abundantly true across the United States. This fact, combined with the sedentary lifestyle, can lead to an energy imbalance. In addition, genetic connection to obesity exists in many individuals. For example, abnormalities in genes controlling appetite and the metabolic rate can contribute to development obesity. Other less common factors that predispose individuals to becoming obese include endocrine abnormalities such as hypothyroidism and Cushing's syndrome, certain medications, psychiatric conditions, and lower socioeconomic status. So there was actually studies done during the pandemic lockdown that showed that obesity increased across the board. The mainstay treatment for obesity is reduced caloric intake combined with an exercise program. There are a host of diet programs out there ranging from low carbohydrate to low fat to simply counting calories. Each type of plan has its advantages and disadvantages. Anyone embarking on a weight loss journey should consult a dietitian or physician to find the best plan for his or her needs. Sometimes, in conjunction with diet and exercise, diet medication may be used. As of 2014, 2 types of agents for weight loss have been approved by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. First type, orlistat, blocks fat digestion and absorption in the small intestine. And the second includes several that act on the central nervous system to decrease the appetite. In cases of morbid obesity, surgery may be considered. And then the next, hopefully it allows me to continue to share these now. And then on the next excerpt it continues on. Please work this time. Yes. All right, we got it. And there. Surgical procedures such as the lap band, which constricts the stomach and prevents it from overfilling, or gastric bypass, which removes a portion of the stomach, can yield significant weight loss results, but only when combined with reduced caloric intake and exercise. But on that note, I personally know people who've had the gastric bypass, and basically they remove your stomach and use a part of your intestine to create a new stomach, which is much smaller. So you feel more satiated, which is you feel full with a lot less food. Whereas whenever you had an abundantly large stomach, you never felt satiated. So in addition, an ever increasing number of diet plans and over the counter. We went over this. How many times have we covered this, Michael? This
About a
exact
million
answer
times.
right here. In addition, an ever increasing number of diet plans and over the counter dietary supplements claim to produce miraculous weight loss results. Here we definitely have a case of buyer beware. Many are the modern day equivalents of snake oil, as they promise something they cannot possibly deliver. Most of these plans and products use scientific sounding terms in their advertisements, a classic tactic of pseudoscience. Pseudoscience being bullshit, basically, pardon my French, which can make it difficult to determine if they are legitimate or a waste of money. Some warning signs to look for include promises of unreasonable results, eat all you want and still lose weight, diet plans that nearly or fully omit entire food groups or severely restrict caloric intake, and any product that uses fear or claims of conspiracies to induce you to buy. Remember also that manufacturers of weight loss dietary supplements are not required to test their ingredients for safety or efficiency, which allows them to make any claims about their product and weight loss without having to actually prove the claims are true. The best defense for your health and your bank account is knowledge and a good sense. If something sounds too good to be true, trust your instincts. There are no miraculous instant solutions for weight loss. If you want to lose weight, you have to burn more energy than you take in. In other words, eat less, exercise more. Simple, but usually not easy. And when I found that, I was just like, yes, that is straight up science. That is hard facts. I'm sorry if you don't like it, Lizzo, but that's what it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little passionate on that topic because the healthy at every size and all that nonsense. But back to the topic at hand. The parents. That girl did not become obese between the months of March, whatever it was, March and October. That wasn't just a few months. She didn't have hypothyroidism, or if she did, they would have mentioned it. So hypothyroidism, Brittany studied that a few months ago, and we were talking about it, and that actually does induce rapid weight gain. Like, you would not believe how fast these people go from being like 14% body fat, like my body fat percentage, to being morbidly obese. Hey, Pam. Oh, Pammy. Yes, we got a Mud Club member in the house. Happy to have you here, Pammy. Thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us. Yeah, we've if you want to if you're just now getting here, please leave us a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. Helps the channel, helps the algorithm. If you want to leave a comment later, we covered some great topics. We dove into the article. We dove into the science behind it, the differences between hypercellular and hypertrophic obesity, and then there's kind of middle one there that's also known as what was it? Hyperplastic?
That's what I think he said, yeah.
And so I shared a video that is linked down in the description. This is my co-host Michael. But if you do want to watch the playback, the video will be archived immediately after the show ends. Thank you for coming. And Michael and I both value every single viewer. All of you guys in our chat, all of you guys that are watching, all of you guys that are watching the playback, we are abundantly grateful. But back to the topic at hand. Oh yeah, okay. So in the article it said between the months of March and October that the parents did not monitor her diet, they did not keep her in a sanitary environment, and they did not ensure that she did exercise. But that girl did not have hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism and a few other very rare cases are the only conditions under which you will see somebody go from being at a healthy weight to being morbidly obese. And that is where I'm saying the excerpts out of the book that I was, from the chapter that I was explaining to you guys, that is where this plays in. I don't believe they monitored her diet at a young age. I don't believe they fed her a healthy diet. I know parents that have given their children Coca-Cola in their bottles. So when you do that, sodas are one of the most massive contributors to obesity. Anything in moderation is fine, but people get addicted to them. They get addicted to the taste of them. They get addicted to the bubbly, the soda feel or whatever you want to call it. They get addicted to the caffeine. And I have a video on addiction. If you guys, it's not just addiction. It covers everything from addiction to coffee to heroin. So it's in my video library. I believe it has its own playlist. If anybody watching the playback in the chat, anybody interested in watching that. But I don't feel like those parents, it wasn't just the short-term thing. That was over the course of her entire life. And she had those pre-existing conditions, and they knew that. Now, who knows when they knew when she was diagnosed, with the pre-existing conditions that she did have, that didn't help the case of her morbid obesity leading to her death. But in that regard, she's not the only child who has died from being morbidly obese. I believe there was just a few months ago, there was a child who had a stroke and died, and she wasn't much. She may have been even younger than Kaylea was. So, and I believe in that article, that child didn't even have any pre-existing conditions. She literally ate herself into an early grave. And then we get down to, are the parents responsible? So, in this case, my opinion, yes, absolutely they are responsible. There were comments on the post that I shared on Facebook saying kids are going to do what they want. That's a very complex statement because teenagers and, preteens, as you would call them, yeah, they're going to do what they want. But if your kid's 10 years old or younger and they're doing what they want, you're not doing something right. If you're teaching discipline, and I'm not talking about beating your kids, I'm not talking about being a hard ass, I'm talking about instilling and teaching them in a structured environment discipline, helping them to develop discipline, over a course of their early years is ideal. But throughout their entire childhood, all the way up to 18, that is the goal, to raise a decent human being. And a decent human being does not exist that does not have discipline and compassion. Now, would she, well, we don't know. We don't know what happened before Kaylee's death. We don't know how the living conditions were. We don't know if the parents were split up or if there was a broken household. There's all kinds of different things that can cause stressors, can cause, you know, people to be more focused on other things than making sure their child is getting the diet and exercise that they need. But from my perspective, the child always comes first. And if you don't believe me on that, I used to be an opioid addict. Before my son was born, when I found out I was going to be a father, basically a few weeks after I learned I was going to be a father, I was drugged out, dried up, and got put in jail. And when they put me on the scale at 6'3", I was 154 pounds. So I changed everything. And it wasn't a New Year's resolution type thing where I just flipped a switch and it was all done. No, it was a step-by-step process, making small changes over time. And anyway, I'm getting off track here, but I did everything I could because I knew I had a kid coming and I was not a dad material. So I did everything I could because I knew that I had a portrait in my head of what a dad should be, and I did not fit that picture. And I had to change, and I'm still working on myself. I still see a therapist. I still do counseling, for addiction counseling, and I mean, I've cleaned my act up. I'm 200 pounds lean now, uh, been in the gym over 3 years now. I've taken small breaks here and there. Just this January, I took the entire month of January and half of February off, and I just turned 30. And getting back into it sucks because you're like, man, I was benching 2 plates before, and now I'm only benching like 185. But muscle memory plays a factor. And another thing about the hypercellular obesity is that it's okay, Bella. You don't have to. You can catch the replay. I feel like it would be beneficial, for you to check out some of the information that we shared in the replay if you get time. And we appreciate you being here.
Yep.
But the hypercellular obesity. So the more fat your body accumulates, the slower your metabolism becomes. It slows your metabolism down. Whereas the more muscle mass you accrue, the higher your metabolism becomes. So whenever you allow your infant or young child to eat a bunch of junk food, calorie dense foods, high in fat, high in simple carbs, and their fat cells are dividing and multiplying, you're setting them up for failure in the future, as Michael mentioned before. So when that woman, I forget her name, I'm not even going to call her out. Whenever she said that, kids are going to do what they want, to an extent, yes. But if you have raised them in a structured manner, and taught them any form of discipline throughout, 0 to 10, then as everybody's rebellious in their teenage years. I mean, especially boys. And I'm not even going to get into the gender nonsense. There's boys and girls, okay? I don't need to play the little clip of the little kindergartner saying boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. I think we all know that here. If you'd like, I can pull it up in anatomy and physiology. I don't think that's necessary. But regardless, rebellious, like for me, was just going out and having fun. I was going, my mom would try to take the keys to my 4-wheeler away. So I went and had a copy made. And then she thinks she had my key, and I would take off in the middle of the night to go riding with my buddies because I lived out in the backwoods. But it's up to the parents ultimately, like, and she also pointed out, they're at school sometimes, they're not always at home. They're not always with their parents, but you can get a pretty good grasp on what you're feeding them at home. And the schools, I'm pretty sure most public schools have to adhere to a certain calorie, you know, what is it? Regulation for kids at the school lunch. I'm pretty sure there's something like that. I'm pretty sure the government. I know. I remember Michelle Obama took away all the sodas from our school when I was in school, and everybody was whining about that. But so yeah, I don't see that as an excuse. I see people love to make excuses, but my mom raised me to accept responsibility for everything, no matter if I did it directly or not. If something happens and I'm not happy about it, I put my situation in, or I put myself in the situation to allow it to happen. Therefore, it's my fault. And when you take that perspective and you take responsibility for everything, no matter what, it alleviates the it alleviates anyone else from having power over you. It puts you in control of your own life. And if you can develop that and instill it into your diet and exercise, I mean, it's I'm not saying none of that's easy, but your children becoming obese, especially young children, it's on you.
So, Chris, let me say something here. So I've just been, quietly listening. We both have a whole lot to say on this topic. So I certainly didn't want to interrupt you. So when we're talking about justice or responsibility, you got two things to say, kind of to talk about, two things to say in response to what you've said. So first thing is, I have a scenario that I'd like to throw at you and see if, I'd like an answer. I want to see what you think because it relates to this. So a scenario is that a parent allows a child to go to another child's house to play.
Mm-hmm.
And while that child is at their friend's house, they very unfortunately get struck by a car and it's fatal. So are you going to tell me that the parent is responsible for allowing their child to go over to that house to make that decision for their child because the child didn't make it on their own? Or is the driver responsible?
Depends on
both.
Ultimately, it's not the parent's fault. Whenever you put your child in the care of somebody else, it is that person who is taking care of the child. It is their responsibility. And if the kids were in the yard where they were supposed to be, and it was a drunk driver that veered off the road, then it was the driver's fault.
So in this case, the driver would be criminally responsible.
If they veered off the road into the yard where the kids were supposed to be safe playing.
Even if the kids ran out in the streets, I don't know how many times I've chased
run out in the street, and it varies on how old the kid is. If the kid's like an older teen, it's the kid's fault. If they're younger and they need to be supervised, constantly, you can't take your eyes off of them. Basically, they shouldn't have been near the road. So it's the person who is taking care of them at that moment. It is their responsibility, in my opinion.
Okay. So the driver, let's say that, the driver is driving, recklessly in this scenario, because I'm trying to really kind of narrow down the details of this, because and what I'm trying to get at is that when we're talking about justice, we have to be extremely careful in how we carry that justice out. Don't let our feelings and opinions get in the way. When we have these parents, in this case, that are being charged criminally for the very, very untimely and unfortunate death of their own child, mind you, as if they aren't tortured enough. But they're being charged criminally. And basically, if convicted, that sets a precedence. And that's an extremely scary precedent, if you ask me. Now, my opinion is that absolutely these parents, just hearing about them and hearing how this all came about and not knowing every single detail surrounding it, just my knowledge of the situation, I think the parents, they pissed me off, if I'm just being honest. So I'm pissed at the whole story. I hate that young lady's life was cut short, due clearly to complications at the very least of the morbid obesity. Maybe it wasn't the morbid obesity that killed her directly, but the morbid obesity certainly did not help the situation.
Well, it said it was linked. The medical cause of death it said linked to her morbid obesity.
Right. So the problem is again, I still go back to, we got to be careful how we dole out that justice, because in that situation, it kind of, hopefully it was a fair example, but it carries over to the example I just gave, right? Mm-hmm. Where I could be charged if I let my son go play at his friend's house and he unfortunately passes due to an accident that I simply gave permission him to go play. But maybe I didn't direct him to never run out in the street. But does that make me criminally responsible? I don't think that the parents, and what I'm getting at is I don't think these parents would have ever put their daughter knowingly in harm's way. Now, were they lazy? And were they feeding their daughter junk? Absolutely. Were they letting their daughter sit around? Absolutely. You're not going to get me to believe anything else. A 16-year-old doesn't get to that state without some serious laziness in the house. I haven't seen the patients. I haven't seen the parents personally, and maybe I wouldn't be surprised if they were obese themselves, right? So in this case, I don't know, man. As angry as this whole case makes me, I think if you convict these people, right, and they do criminal time, that's an extremely slippery slope. Because then now, what can you be charged for as a parent? Now, I know this is another country, but I'm just saying, just the justice system across the board. What could you be charged for as a parent? If a parent now will go to jail because their teenage daughter passed away due to complications of obesity. That's a scary thought, man. That's a scary thought.
It's a good perspective to bring up, for sure, because especially, with the chaos we have going on across our federal government right now, no matter which side you're on, it's chaos. It's just unrealistic. And they had people that they're already charging people for crimes they didn't commit, and then letting people who did commit crimes get away with not even a slap on the wrist.
So junk like that's already happening. Yeah. So that's the thing is we already have major cracks and fractures in our justice system. I don't think that adding another one by force to just, I don't know, make an example of these people is a good one. Now, I do also, real quick, Pam has a good question in the chat, Chris.
She got Blackbeard.
Yeah. Oh, Blackbeard, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us. He actually answered my question that I had asked previously. So I asked, what is beauty at any size, or is morbid obesity, dangerous? And Blackbeard says beauty if everywhere and is everywhere. I think is what he meant, is and in the eye of the beholder. But obesity is in and of itself is dangerous and unhealthy, which Totally agree. Thanks for answering that question, Blackbeard. It's a loaded one, but I'm glad that somebody had the guts to answer it. But Pam has a very good question. How much medical care were the parents getting for the conditions that this young lady had? She had some serious conditions, and so the question is, how much care were the parents giving to treat those conditions?
Man, hold on. I had it pulled up. Yeah, we did cover that. I'm not going to make you go through the playback just to see it. I'll pull it up real bit because I've got it right here in my history. But it says, let me pull up the screen share. And but basically, they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
So there was negligence, at least on that part, where they weren't.
Yeah, they were very specific actually in the article. So it says, where is it?
And so also, while you're pulling that up, Chris, I also want to add, and I'm talking to everybody who's in live, everybody on playback, and specifically here to Pam and Chris now. So Pam posed the question. So the thing is, the question now remains is, there are details that you still would have to really dig into, right? And what I'm trying to do today, Chris, is play devil's advocate, okay? I really want to dig deep into this so we understand what we're really saying as far as justice is concerned. So my question is, if you could bring this article up and you can basically cite in this article that no, they were not treating this young lady's serious health conditions, or not treating it well enough, or accordingly, or according to the writer of this story, or whoever wrote this, not treating her appropriately. The question then that I would have to follow up with, right, is why? Why? Did they have the means to do so, but they just wholesale neglected her? Or are they like a lot of other folks and they didn't have the means? So therefore, in fact, you can write in an article that they did not care for this girl's conditions, and thereby you pass judgment based on that, right? And I hope you're following me here, Chris, and Pam as well. I'm trying to answer your question and play devil's advocate. But if they didn't have the means to do so, you cannot do this to these people. They've lost a child. We all have to remember that. We are very disconnected from this situation.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have the means to treat her, then that isn't direct neglect. But the obesity is a different question.
Well, to start, so it says here in the article, it says the charge also states, this is after it lays out that they are charged with negligence, manslaughter, and failure to meet the standards or something like that. But
right.
As the charge also states, nor did they ensure she got enough exercise, was in a hygienic condition, had a safe and hygienic environment, which I'm pretty sure, they had the means to keep the house clean, to keep her in a hygienic environment. Her physical health was maintained, or that reasonable medical help was sought, and reasonable being a key word there. So I'm pretty sure Wells is one of the places that people are always bragging about having free health care. So they're charging them with not, seeking out reasonable medical help.
Right. And these are just charges. These are just charges. So just because they're charged doesn't make them guilty.
Right. Also, they did not enter any plea, and they will appear again in court on the 14th, which is next week.
Yeah. If they were in the U.S. Okay, Pam followed up from my question. So I like this conversation. I like this back and forth. If they were here in the USA, that'd be a very valid point. But they were in Wales. Don't they have socialized medicine? So that was to your point, Chris. And so if that's the case, then yeah. I mean, I would say I stand corrected. I'm not arguing to You know, I'm not trying to die on this hill. I'm just trying to play a good, honest devil's advocate, because this is a heavy one, guys. You know,
Yeah.
you dole out this kind of justice, and be prepared now when that precedent is set that you could be charged yourself as a parent for something fairly disconnected from what you directly did, right? I mean, there's a large difference to me in these parents, this young lady's death, as far as what the role their parents played in it, and then the role that a parent would play in a child's death if they actually murdered them, you know, actually actively did that, took their life. These parents did not want their daughter dead, no matter how pissed off we all are on this stream, or what we can debate about. They want their daughter back, guys.
Oh,
They
yeah.
did not want this. But the question is here today, if we were their judge, are we prepared to charge them criminally?
Well,
I'm not.
the interesting thing is it's not negligence and manslaughter. It's negligence manslaughter. That is the charge. And I've never heard of that charge before. So
I haven't either.
I'm not sure what that entails. It says neither of them entered a plea. So they didn't plead guilty, and they did not plead not guilty. So I'm interested to follow up on this later on. Maybe we could put out videos, or we could even touch on it in our next show. I would very much love to you know, go back to a weekly show if we're able to get there. But anyway, negligence manslaughter. So here in the US, when you get a manslaughter charge, you can do maybe 5 years and get out on good behavior, you know, depending on the judge, depending on the scenario. So of course they're going through, you know, I cannot imagine losing my kid, but I also cannot imagine, you know, when it says failure to keep good hygienic condition, I couldn't imagine not giving him a bath. I couldn't imagine letting him eat fucking Cheetos all day or whatever,
I
drink
agree.
sodas, you know. I can't imagine any of that.
Yeah,
So
man.
it sounds like they were living in a pigsty. I cannot say, you know, for sure,
We
but
can't.
what
We can't.
it looks like is they were living in a pigsty. They probably didn't, you know, have healthy diet or exercise routines. She already had pre-existing conditions. Maybe they didn't know how to handle that, but they should have looked further into how to. They should have taken more initiative. They definitely should have done a lot more, but we're still.
Well, that's what we think.
Well,
That's what
I
we
mean
think.
that's kind of they should have done more.
But that's what we think, though, Chris. Here's and why I'm arguing with you is because they have socialized medicine. So that's an excellent point that both you and Pam brought up. So they had access, right, to medical care. And so I don't argue that point anymore, that we've moved past it. They had access. But we can also see from agencies that we have in our own country, if you want to cite the USA, right, is that I wanted you to tell me what veteran is happy with their VA benefits. Blackbeard, thank you in the chat. I'd love to hear that, because it's trash, and that's socialized medicine. And I want you to give me one senior citizen who is just ecstatic about how Medicare treats them and how long they have to wait, or how many of their things are denied and they have to jump through hoops and go through hell to get a simple treatment. And I see this crap every single day, man. And it sickens me.
My dad is a veteran, so I know.
So, okay, so you know, is your
Um,
dad ecstatic? I mean, more so, are you ecstatic about how your dad is treated? Because I think our veterans are treated like trash when it comes to the VA.
They are, and he had to jump through a million hoops just to get his benefits, and he finally did. Though they finally, you know, he just now. I mean, he's never been, you know, the most disciplined dude. He's always blown all his money, but he's just now buying his first house, and he's
Gotcha.
almost he's like he's in his mid-50s now. But Blackbeard, he gave a statement, and Pammy did as well. So I wanted to touch on them, and then we're going to have to wrap up soon because my fiance is going to be getting home and I'm going to get together.
Hey, you know what? Here's the thing, Chris. Before we do that, I want to say that this is an awesome discussion, dude, and I want to pick this up on our next stream. I'd like to continue this conversation.
Dude, I would very likely be down to do it this Friday, honestly.
Dude, I'm down, man. I'm down.
This following Friday, because I believe that they will have appeared in court again, and we may have some more information on the case.
We can do it. But let's close this out. Pam actually had a comment here.
Well, Blackbeard went first. So
okay, go ahead.
So I brought it up on the screen. So he said, I'm going to piss somebody off, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. He said, my child is my child, and I'll do what I want with my kid. But if I do something hurtful that could have prevented, like giving my child a clean and safe environment, then it's on me. Medical care, though, is a bit more tricky, and yes, it is. So
absolutely.
And then we'll get to Pammy, of course. You bring up some really good points, Michael. If it were here in the USA, yes, a very dangerous precedent, and agencies like CPS already go too far, and yes,
yeah, absolutely.
And people that like to seek vengeance on people that, you know, I've seen personally in my own life, people like in my family, a drug addict who was disowned called CPS on the people who stopped talking to her just because they stopped talking to her. And then CPS is, and that's on the record forever, you know, that CPS was called on these parents just because they didn't want a drug addict around their kids. So yeah, CPS definitely goes too far.
They overstep their bounds.
But so it doesn't say the child failed to receive. It says they didn't seek it out.
Okay.
So I'm interested to find out, did they try and they were turned down, you know? I know people in Canada, even Coach Greg, he's mentioned the healthcare in Canada. You know, they also have the socialized healthcare, but when he broke his shoulder, and they put him on a 3-year waiting list, and it basically healed itself, and now his shoulder looks all deformed because it healed on its own due to the socialized healthcare putting him on a 3-year waiting list. So it's very hard to say, maybe, but at the end of the day, she was still in a calorie surplus and they weren't monitoring her diet. At the very least, they didn't even have to have her exercise. I noticed she was in a wheelchair in one of the pictures. So
yeah,
I don't know if that was like a permanent thing or if it was like a more recent picture where she was just in a wheelchair because it was easier for her to move around that way. There's so many dynamics. There's so many different ways, different, aspects to the scenario that it's very, very hard to judge. This must be very stressful for the judge or judges that have to deal with this case. And, but yeah, let's see. Pammy says VA, maybe it's because of where I live, but I get really good care with the VA. Well, we're glad to hear that, Pammy.
I'm glad to hear that too.
Definitely. And Blackbeard, he says, I couldn't even finish my thought. Trigger word VA. So yeah, it's definitely
it's polarized.
I will say, Pammy, I've heard, you may be one of the only people I've heard that didn't complain about the VA. But that's good. That's good that they're taking care of you. And it's definitely better to hear that than they're not. So
100%.
Bella, the next live, we're always going to do our bi-weekly show, but we are going to discuss this week whether or not we'll be doing it next Friday. Either way, the next show will be on Michael's channel. So if you guys want to catch our next show, everybody catching the replay, go down in the description and go subscribe to Michael's channel so that you don't miss our next show. But the parents of this actual case are supposed to appear the 14th. And I'm hoping that day we will receive some more information on this case so we can kind of follow up on it. And we may even delve it even further into some of the other things I learned in the AMP book over here. So, and thanks once again, Pam. I appreciate you. I believe I noticed that 2 more people subscribed to the channel, and I abundantly appreciative and grateful for that.
100%.
Every single view, every single like that is given. Yes, Michael and I both, we appreciate it. To have 5 people watching, 6 people. I mean, even 2 people. When we first started, we were, we'd have 1 or 2 people.
Sometimes we were
and,
just live streaming to ourselves, partner.
and yeah, I mean, and we would get views, and I do my best to, I have 2 Buddy Legends. I was lucky enough to win a 1-year subscription of 2 Buddy Legends, which is their top tier, paid membership thing that it basically gives you all the best keyword research, all the stuff to give you the best odds as far as the algorithm goes. But I try to do that, and we have been steadily increasing the views on our shows, on my channel at least, I know for sure. And we just want to say how grateful we are for that. And if there's any more questions, and if Michael's got anything else to say, then
no, I think we can wrap this up, but I do want to continue this conversation though, Chris. And then what I want to do is I want to tease where we're going to start next week, right? So I'm not even going to get into it, but I want to start out with your comment that you made that, taking responsibility for whenever you put yourself in certain situations. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm sorry. I was reading Pam's thing. I was reading Pam's thing.
Well, everybody who need to know it heard it.
Yeah, I'll just catch it on the replay. But yes, it's not like a set in stone kind of thing, but it's a way, it's basically the opposite of the way a lot of people I see, especially in the Twitter sphere and the places like that, they're always pointing the finger at somebody else. They're always saying, "Oh, it's not my fault, it's their fault. It's not, no matter what it is, it's always someone else's fault." So,
Sure.
For me, that lack of, responsibility, just
I'm with you, man.
Kind of irks me. But
I'm with you.
Once again, I appreciate you guys. We're going to wrap it up here, and you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you on our next show. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, because that is where we will be letting you guys know whether our next show will be on next Friday. If it's not next Friday, it will be the following Friday. And make sure you subscribe to Michael's channel, because that's where the next show will be. So y'all have a great weekend. Michael can say his farewells. And
all right, guys.